This episode is brought to you by Ursa Minor Outfitters. Folks, I'm absolutely in love with my loon mug. It's handmade, it's an absolute piece of art. Whether it's at the office or at the house, people keep asking to check it out. If you're not a loon fan, they also have other beautiful mugs for wildlife fans of moose, bears, and eagles. They specialize in products highlighting the outdoors and local pride through quality design by local artists. They've even started expanding into items beyond mugs, like apparel, dog accessories, and soon candles and more. They also try to partner and highlight other small businesses, and in some cases, forego profits in lieu of charitable giving to help their community, such as the dog rescue. So check them out, UrsaMinorOutfitters.com, and enter promo code HikesMikes10 at checkout to receive 10% off your order. And for our four-legged hiking partners, they also have a portable silicone dog bowl and also a sweet over-the-collar dog bandana. Go check them out, UrsaMinorOutfitters.com, and don't forget to enter promo code HikesMikes10 at checkout to receive 10% off your order. Welcome, everyone, to the Hikes and Mikes podcast. I'm your host, Ivan, and together we'll embark on a weekly journey connecting with extraordinary hikers from all corners of the U.S. and beyond. Throughout these winter months, we've had the privilege of conversing with some remarkable individuals this season. Their experiences and adventures will leave you yearning to hit the trails. In this week's episode, we have our first in-person interview in quite some time. I sit down with another local hiker from Yakima. His name is Kyle, and you can follow him on Instagram on his own podcast channel at Our Travel Experiences Podcast. Kyle shares with us some of his favorite hikes in and around Central Washington. We learn about how a trip to Europe helped him catch the travel bug. And lastly, we talk about his incredible experience trekking to Everest Base Camp. Without further ado, let's jump into this episode with our guest, Kyle. Welcome, everyone, to the latest episode of the Hikes and Mikes podcast. I'm really excited today to be doing my first in-person interview in quite a long time. I have a local Yakima native with me. His name is Kyle, and he's going to be sharing about his outdoor and travel experiences over the last couple of years. Thank you, Kyle, for coming on the podcast. We always like to start off by asking our guests how long they've been hiking for and how they got started.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to do this. It's been a while since I've got to do an interview in person too, so that's awesome. But yeah, how long I've been hiking? I mean, I've been doing this since before I can remember. My family are avid hikers. My grandpa, my dad, even my mom have all hiked extensively throughout my entire life, their entire lives. And so as soon as I could walk, I've been hiking and spent a lot of time up here in the Central Cascades, getting to explore some beautiful wilderness. And now I've been able to take it around the world too.
Yeah, man. And you've been to some incredible places over the last couple of years. And we'll definitely touch on one of the more recent ones where you went to Everest Base Camp. But, you know, this is the first time in a long time that I've had somebody from the Valley that is currently here. So I'm always interested in seeing how other people from Yakima view the hiking and outdoor scene here in Central Washington. How would you describe it?
Yeah, that's a great question. Honestly, I think we're in a very great spot to do a lot of hiking, and you can kind of adjust or find any sort of hike for any sort of level here. Around the valley, there's some smaller hikes, some shorter ones, easier, flatter hikes to do. But then you can go up into the mountains and there's some very difficult hikes that you can do. Yeah. And there's different levels up there as well. So I think we are in a very good position because, you know, it's only a short drive to those mountains and to those hiking trails. So you can find something, you know, within an hour of here easily for any level.
And especially when the mountain passes are open, like Rainier's 45 minutes away.
Yeah.
Now, being that we're in winter, have you had a chance to do some winter hiking?
Not recently. Let's see, we had a snowstorm, gosh, what was that, like November or October?
Oh, yeah.
Of last year. And I was actually up in the mountains during that time. So I did some hiking in the snow in October, November, whenever that was. But since then, I haven't had a chance. I was traveling around the world for a couple months, hiking in other areas of the world. And then I've come back and had way too many things going on. So I haven't got out as much as I want to. I try to get some steps in and do some stuff outdoors as much as I can. But sometimes, the weather is a factor in that for sure.
Yeah, man, it's been a struggle this winter, especially the last couple of weeks here in Yakima with the doom and gloom of the gray and rainy clouds. But I feel like we're slowly starting to turn to spring. I know it's only February, but we're getting close. Do you have any favorite local hiking trails that you like to do frequently?
Yeah, I mean, the Cowiche Canyon is always a fun place to go. There's a lot of different trails in that area. It's always fun hiking to Willridge Winery. Get a little reward at the end of the hike there. But honestly, my favorite hiking trail is not, I don't even know if it's an official trail. So it's a place that my family and I have always gone to since I was young. We hike back into the Goat Rocks past Conrad Meadows, if anyone knows where that is. And it's kind of way off the beaten path. And we hike into a waterfall, which is probably, I want to say it's probably about 3 miles in, 3 miles out. We'll usually do a different route on the way out of there. But a lot of beautiful country back in there, and just the Goat Rocks in general is my favorite area to explore in this area.
I feel like the Goat Rocks are right up there with North Cascades, where they're an underrated gem here in Washington.
Yeah.
I totally understand Rainier and even the Olympics, but I think the next couple places that are going to bubble are the Goat Rocks on either side.
Yeah, and I think it just holds a special place in my heart because so many family memories are built into that area for me. Like we go up there at least once a year as a family and do that hike.
Oh, right on.
So it's just like, there's a lot of sentiment there, for sure. But there's so many beautiful places in Washington. North Cascades, incredible.
We talked a little bit about your traveling experience, and you've been able to travel to amazing places over the last couple of years. And just to give people an idea, you've hit up 35 countries, you've hit all 50 states and 6 of 7 continents, 23 of the 63 national parks. How did you catch the travel bug? And then what was the first solo trip that kind of launched you into traveling abroad?
Yeah, it could be a very long story, but I'll try to keep it brief. Again, as a family, we traveled a fair amount around Washington State, the Pacific Northwest. I have family in Colorado who we would go visit usually every year. And so, I got to experience, flying and driving, long road trips as a kid and always enjoyed it. Staying in a hotel as a kid is like the coolest experience ever. Jump on the bed, all you want for breakfast. The waffles were always the highlight. And, just getting to see something new. I always loved seeing the beautiful landscapes and seeing how, the geography and the topography of the land changes as you go to a different area. And so, I've just experienced it for my whole life. And then as I got older, I started, venturing further and further out. We took some bigger trips as me and my sister got older. And then probably the one trip, it wasn't a solo trip, but it really, I guess, solidified like my love for travel, is right after I graduated high school as sort of a graduation present. But also it was an educational trip. Our French teacher in high school, she every other year would take a few students on an international trip, usually to a French-speaking country. And so my cousin, who was in the same class as me, and then one other guy in our class, and someone who I think was a year younger than us, we all got the opportunity to go on this trip. And so we went to Switzerland, northern Italy, Monaco, southern France, and then into Barcelona. So it was like 10, 11 days that we were actually on the trip. It was my first time going out of the country. And I was like, wow, there's so much to see here. It's totally different from back home. Like, it's beautiful to explore all these different areas, see, listen to the different languages, all that sort of thing, eat the different foods. And I was like, this is what I got to do. I want to see so much. And as a history fan, reading about the Roman Empire and just all the history around the world, there's so many cool things that I was fascinated in. I was like, I want to go see those with my own eyes, not just in a textbook. So that trip really solidified like the international travel. And then I just realized, you know what? I have the ability. I don't have, any responsibilities going to school. I don't have any kids or significant other. Like I'll just go explore and see what there is to see. And it really just like snowballed further and further from there. Now it's a very, very expensive hobby,
Yeah.
I guess. Trying to turn it into a business in some areas. And all of a sudden I was like, I'm getting a lot of these states checked off. I'm getting some national parks. These country totals are starting to get up.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm just going to keep pursuing it. And luckily, like the 50 states, I finished that right at the end of 2022.
Oh,
And
wow.
I was just like, wow, I can't believe I did all this, got to explore so much. So it's really, really snowballed over the years.
And which one was number 50 for the states?
Alaska.
Oh,
Alaska,
way to close it out with going up to Alaska.
Yeah, that was epic. I had always heard about Alaska. It's relatively not that far away from us here in Washington State, but it's a hard place to get to, sort of. And I had just pursued all the other states because it was easier. And I was like, okay, I got to make a trip to Alaska. I wanted to experience it in winter to like get that Alaska experience. And so I went to Fairbanks in December of 2022. It was daylight for like 4 hours. But I really didn't see the sun at all because it was overcast. But then I got to see the Northern Lights on the day that I was there. And I was just like, this was the perfect way to end this journey of a lifetime.
One post from your Alaska trip that caught my attention, because I like the quirky history, is you went to the North Pole.
Yes.
That isn't the geographic North Pole, but it was one of two that like went across the country, but then they forgot about it and they found it in a junkyard.
Yeah, I don't remember that whole history now, but there's the North Pole. North Pole is the name of the town in Alaska, not too far from Fairbanks. And so being the North Pole, being Alaska, where there's lots of snow, it's a big, tourist marketing kind of thing. And so, I don't remember the whole story with the pole, but I know they found it and refurbished it and whatever. And now it's sitting there in North Pole, Alaska. And really, really a quirky town that's very much steered into the Christmas marketing to bring tourists there.
And for people that have seen the Northern Lights, I always am fascinated on what their experiences were, because I hear like what you see visually isn't the same that your phone or camera captures. Is that true?
Yeah, so it's really hard to actually capture it with the camera. You have to do a long exposure in night mode if you're going to do it on your phone or with a camera. You can't just take a picture of it because it doesn't pick it up. Yeah, so you have to do a long exposure, like at least 5 seconds probably, to pick it up. But what you're seeing, it's insane. I mean, just magical. And I think when you do the long exposure too, it makes that light pop out, the greens and purples that you'll see in really nice photos. But it's just, I mean, you got to experience it at some point in your life. It's very magical, and you don't like necessarily see it coming, but then all of a sudden you'll kind of see this like oh, it's getting cloudy, and then it just pops out and it's this green and purple, and on a good night you can see the Northern Lights dance, what they call it, so you can see it moving, kind of swaying back and forth, and it's beautiful.
Man, definitely one of the bucket list items is not just Alaska, but to see the Northern Lights as well.
Well worth the expense to get up there and get far enough north to like really experience it.
And how was it with the cold and snow? Like we here in Central Washington have some cold days, especially this year with the 0-degree days. How did it compare from what you're used to here to then going to the extreme of Alaska?
I got super lucky. When I was there, it basically was right about 0 degrees for most of the time. Like I'd say the coldest was maybe like -10-ish. And so I really didn't experience like extreme cold. I think the next week it got down to like -30 or something like that. So I missed like the really, really bad, which was nice because I'm not a fan of the cold at all. And the little bit of like outdoor stuff and hiking that I did up in Alaska, it was luckily like warm enough where I could survive for a moment and not just be in pain the entire time.
Right on.
But it does get very cold. It's weird. You'll see, since it was warm enough that it wasn't like things weren't so frozen, but all the cars have basically like an outlet in them. So you can plug it in and keep the engine warm.
Oh man.
Because it freezes and you can't start your car. So it was just weird to like see a car plugged in to an outlet in the middle of a parking lot.
Yeah, that's not an electric vehicle.
Yeah, not an electric vehicle kind of thing.
Oh,
no.
man. Now, Kyle, I'm interested in hearing about your experiences across all 50 states because doing this podcast, I've had the opportunity to talk to people from other states that aren't necessarily known for their outdoor scenes. I found that Tennessee is a hidden waterfall state. Ohio has some incredible outdoor experiences. Out of all the 50 states that you visited, what would you consider the most underrated as far as like outdoor experiences or landscapes?
Ooh, that's a good question. I always, whenever anyone asks like my favorite country, favorite state, it's so hard to compare because so many places are very different from each other and the cultures are completely different. But the most underrated for outdoorsy type of places, I would have to say probably, I'm trying to think, I'd probably go somewhere in the Midwest, like North Dakota is one that comes to mind. In North Dakota, everyone's like, oh, there's nothing there. Same thing with South Dakota. And while it is very open, North Dakota has a place like Theodore Roosevelt National Park, which is beautiful. One of my favorite national parks that I've been to. And there is good hiking in there. It's not necessarily a gigantic mountain that you're going to see there, but the nature's still very beautiful. And there's wildlife and everything that you would want there. So yeah, I'd say like North Dakota, South Dakota, the Black Hills in South Dakota are incredible. Where Mount Rushmore is, it's just a different type of terrain. I still say Washington's better, but those are very underrated places.
Okay. They have come up a few times on the podcast that the grasslands is just something else. And being from here where it's like high desert and mountains, we don't really see that. So to see that change in landscape would be pretty wild.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, Kyle, another thing that you're tracking and you're almost halfway through them is the national parks here in the United States. What's been the most recent national park that you visited? And if you had to rank them, the top 3.
Okay. I like this. Yeah, the most recent one, I'm trying to think. It was... Shoot, what was the last one? I've been on a lot of different travels recently, so it's hard to remember. It must have been Olympic. That seems like a long time ago to have been to a national park. Oh no, Glacier. I remember now. It was last August, I think.
And how was that experience visiting Glacier National Park?
I'm gonna have to go back. I mean, I'd seen pictures. And I was like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
But hiking there was just out of this world. It was insane. And I don't recommend this for anyone. And I should be smarter than this, especially having hiked a lot. So I got into the park like 2 a.m, which I recommend to people. If you're going to a place like Glacier or like North Cascades, go in the middle of the night and you can stargaze. But so I got in, I stargazed for a while. I slept in my car. I drove through the park in the dark. And then I got up early in the morning, a little before sunrise. And I hiked, oh gosh, I don't remember the name of the trail now. I think it's the Divide Trail. You're going right along the Continental Divide, and I don't think that's the right name. I'll have to get it for you. But
that's all right.
Yeah, from the visitor center that's basically in the middle of the park at the top on the Continental Divide.
Oh, okay.
And I hiked along there. It's a pretty flat, easy hike. It's long. I think it was 7 miles to the turnoff point. You can keep going further on that, but I turned off at the Garden Wall Trail, which I know that one is the right name, which then is like a mile straight up, very difficult. But you get up to the top and you get up to a little saddle and you can overlook on the other side. And there's a glacier that comes down into a lake. Beautiful. And then you can see out the other way. You can see west like forever and ever and see all of the areas that you hiked. And it's beautiful. But I basically was up there by myself. That's why I don't recommend it to people, because I went out while it was still a little bit dark. I was by myself at the entrance to the trail. There's about 5 different bear signs, like don't go by yourself, carry bear spray. Was by myself. I didn't have bear spray. And I was the only one on the mountain. I saw 2 trail runners when I was about 4 miles in, and that was it.
Wow.
Until I started coming back, and then people had started hiking.
Yeah.
So and then there was a lot of people. It was fine. But I saw wildlife. I didn't see any bears, but I saw some sheep. I saw goats, deer. It was awesome.
And talking about trail running, I feel like that's something that you also recently got into. not just, trail running, but also doing some of these races here locally in and around Washington. How did the passion for running kind of come about?
Yeah, that was a COVID thing. So I
Okay.
feel like everyone found something in COVID.
Yeah.
For me, it was running. I've been athletic my whole life. I played every sport, and during COVID, couldn't do any of those things. A lot of sports you need someone else there, and so I needed to get out of the house. I was tired of being cooped up, and I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to run a half marathon. It'd be cool to do a marathon at some point. Yeah. And so I just started running. And I listened to David Goggins, his first book, Can't Hurt Me.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, this is insane. But got me pumped up. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna start running. And all of a sudden it became like my therapy during COVID. 2020 was a very hard year for a lot of reasons. And that really helped me kind of get out of the funk that I was in. It helped me see a lot about myself, learn a lot about myself, and change some of my habits that were not helping me in any way and actively harming me. And so I got more and more into it. And, you get those dopamine hits running, you hit those high points, and it's so addicting. And so I couldn't stop doing it. And so I hit the goal of running a half marathon. And I was like, all right, I can do a marathon. And so I kept training, bumping up the mileage, and I did a marathon. I've just gone way down the rabbit hole since then. I did a 100-miler last year. I'm looking at potentially doing a 200-miler this year.
Wow.
And people ask me why I do what I do, and I'm like, I don't know. Well, I guess I'm an idiot to put myself through that pain. But it's just, I'm so addicted to it now.
Oh, man. And you've been able to do, not crazy, but some epic runs like in and around North Bend, which is a beautiful place. And I think you did one on the Gorge. Yakima is known for the Yakima Mile.
Yeah.
How is it hiking a trail versus trail running a trail? Like, now that you have those two different viewpoints, is there a difference that you notice?
Yes and no. I mean, I still love hiking. I do it all the time, but I think they really complement each other in some ways. Hiking, you're going to get that more laid back. You might have more time to just kind of think about things or just really take in all of your surroundings and be present in that. And I think it's very meditative. Mm-hmm. And then trail running, I think it's a way that you feel like so connected to the land in a way. I mean, I think our ancestors, they lived by, running down animals in these mountains and, on the grasslands and things like that.
Yeah.
And so you kind of feel that like primal instinct and primal connection to the earth when I'm trail running. And so it's a different way to experience that same nature, that same landscape, and feel connected to it in a different way. And you also can cover more ground running. So if you want to see more,
yeah, true.
But yeah, they're both amazing.
Would you say you have a heightened sense of awareness on the trail? Because the one thing that I'm always curious about is, hikers, sometimes we stumble, we hit roots, we hit rocks. And with trail runners, the way they kind of scale up mountains or scale up trails, it's almost like they are in tune with their feet and what they're feeling. Have you noticed that it's kind of increased your awareness of what the trail feels like?
Yeah, honestly, I would say so. That kind of goes back to that connection. Yes, you got to pay attention. I've fell on rocks before. It's not very fun, but I feel like I'm like one with the earth in a way. I'm very in tune, and like, I'm already plotting my next step as I'm running and just seeing, where's, the dips and bends and all these things in the land. And I feel like that's just a really unique experience.
And, you've already touched base on it, but you are looking at doing a 200-miler.
Yes.
Any other race goals for 2024?
Yeah. So with running in particular, for a couple of years now, it's been my goal to qualify for the Boston Marathon. It's very hard. I'm not that fast. I would say above average in terms of the speed, but 26.2 miles is a long ways to keep up a very, very fast pace to qualify for that marathon. So I would like to, increase my speed, reduce that marathon time to a faster time. Hopefully I can qualify for the Boston Marathon. That's going to be my goal until I do it at some point in my life. As I hit different age brackets, it'll get easier. The time gets slower. Right now I'm in the hardest bracket to with my age and gender.
Oh, dude.
You have to do under 3 hours, which is very
Oh,
difficult.
man.
Yeah, so that so I'll be running. I haven't officially signed up yet, but every year my sister and I do the Yakima Canyon Marathon,
Oh, yeah.
which is beautiful. Great way to experience the Yakima Canyon for anyone that's interested, especially if you're from out of town. Like, I recommend that race. It's beautiful. Yeah, I usually do the last few years I've done the Yakima Mile, which is a great event that raises a lot of money for like the YWCA, which is a great organization. So it's fun to be a part of that. And then, yeah, like I said, the 200 miler, which will probably entail doing some practice runs of 50 and 100 miles in there. So I might do other races, but I'm looking at one in September, hopefully, that I can do.
Okay.
Yeah, I just keep getting crazier and crazier. Every time I push myself, I realize I haven't hit my limit yet. I haven't hit the ceiling. I realize I can do more. My mind and body can do more than I think.
That's always good to find out where your edge is.
Yeah.
Where is that? Because I think a lot of us, we think where the edge is, but then when we really push ourselves, we're like, oh, I'm more capable
There's
than
so much more.
Exactly. One that I always heard when I was living in Hawaii was the Honolulu Marathon was one of the easier marathons to qualify for the Boston because it's relatively flat on the freeway. So I knew a lot of people would do that to be one of their qualifying races.
Yeah. If you can find a good downhill race, I think there's one in the Cascades, actually.
Oh.
You're going to go west, like towards Seattle. I think it's the tunnel marathon. I know you go through a tunnel at some point. It goes along an old gravel trail.
Yeah.
There used to be a train track, I think. And it's basically all downhill. So
Oh man, I wonder if that's the one that starts in Snoqualmie and then goes through that tunnel heading west.
I think so.
Wow. Oh, that'd be nuts to go through that tunnel, because I'm pretty sure it's a long tunnel where you need almost like a headlamp, right?
Yeah, I think you're required to race to have a headlamp.
Okay. Now, Kyle, one place that you recently visited that I was really excited to talk to you about was your visit to Nepal and making it to Everest Base Camp. I think for a lot of hikers and outdoor enthusiasts, like that's on almost everybody's bucket list. Can you walk us through how that trip came about and your experiences reaching Everest Base Camp?
Yeah, it was a bucket list thing for me too. And I always thought, I'll get there someday. I would love to see Everest. That'd be amazing. And I did not expect to do it so early on in life, I guess. A friend of my mom's, actually, she's a badass lady. She's in her mid 60s. She did it last year with some friends, a shorter route, and made it all the way to Everest Base Camp. And she fell in love with Nepal. And so she was like, I'm going to go back this year. She did a different trek beforehand. And then she wanted to do Everest Base Camp again, but do a longer kind of roundabout route. And so, she knew that I liked hiking and running and, traveling. And so she was like, hey, are you interested in doing this? Like, here's the details and everything. And I was like, man, this is a great opportunity. It's already planned out. Basically, I just got to pay the money and show up. And so it worked with my schedule and everything going on in my life that it was very good timing. And so I was able to, plan it out over a few months. And in November of last year, so just a few months ago, I was able to go on that trek, and it was just insane. I mean, I thought I had seen amazing scenery going to Glacier, going to North Cascades, hiking in all these different areas in the US and other parts of the world. And the Himalayas are just on a whole other level.
Yeah.
It is just, it's a magical experience. I mean, one, to see the Himalayas from afar, so you can see it from the plane into Kathmandu, which is kind of cool on a clear day. So seeing it, and it's just these tall mountains that stretch for so long. And then to fly through, we took a helicopter from Kathmandu to Lukla, where we started the trek. You're flying and you're looking out at these huge hills, mountains already, mountains that would be the same as getting to the top of the Cascades here, or even higher than that. And then you're like, oh, we're starting higher than that.
Yeah.
So Lukla is at like a little under 10,000 feet.
Oh, man.
And so the whole time, I mean, the whole trek was, I think, 14 days that we were up there. And I mean, you're hiking through these high mountains, and then you look up and you're just being overshadowed by taller mountains. It's an experience like no other. I highly recommend everyone experience a trek in Nepal in the Himalayas. Everest is a very popular spot now. There's many others to do, but getting to Everest base camp was, I mean, an experience I will never forget. I feel like it really just like made me feel alive. This is something that I can just like keep with me forever. It's something that if I'm ever, suffering or whatever, I can look back at that moment and it'll help me get through any hardships. The hiking is, I'll say it's not easy. It was easier than I expected. I will say that. I was prepared for like altitude sickness and having all sorts of issues. I had no idea what to expect. And I think it is hard to know what to expect until you get there. Altitude sickness affects everyone differently, or the altitude will affect you differently. I would say it helps to be in shape, but I saw people up there that were in insane shape that still got altitude sickness. So you don't know until you're up there.
Yeah.
But
did you get altitude sickness?
No, thankfully not. I felt really, really strong the whole time. You can feel it. It's not as easy to breathe at 17,000 feet as it is at 1,000.
Yeah.
If you're going for a while hiking, like you can feel like, okay, I'm not getting the same amount of oxygen as I'm used to getting. So I noticed the hiking was a little bit slower. Like the pace slowed down a little bit compared to what I'm used to doing. But I was still able to do it pretty quickly. But there is no flat ground in that entire country, I think.
Yeah.
You're constantly going up and down, and while you're still like gradually going up. So your net gain is your gain elevation. You have to gain that elevation like 3 times before you get it, which is kind of frustrating. But Everest is a very popular spot. I think it's like 40,000 people a year make it to base camp from all around the world. And so there will be a lot of people on the trail, but the trail is very well, mapped out. You can see it clearly. Once you get above the tree line, there's basically nothing up there. We saw lots of yaks, donkeys carrying things. You just basically hike from the one little village to the next. So it's usually a few miles a day, whatever. But we went the longer route. So the first couple of days, you're below the trees and you hike up to Namche Bazaar, which is like the main town up there.
Now, Kyle, one thing I want to ask is what was your travel like getting from Seattle to Everest Base Camp outside of trekking?
That was a wild. On this trip, I spent forever on planes. I spent a lot of my life on planes. But I had to fly from Seattle to San Francisco, which, I don't know, it's an hour flight, hour and a half. Go back out of the airport or out of the security area. Go check in again on your international flight. And then go through security again, do all the customs stuff, show your passport, all that good stuff. And then I flew San Francisco to Doha, Qatar, right on the Persian Gulf near Saudi Arabia. And that's about a 15-hour flight. And then I had 7 or 8 hour layover there. So I just hung it in the airport, one of the best airports in the world. I think for the last couple of years, it's been the best airport in the world, and Singapore just took it back. Great place to hang out. I enjoyed it. I was also exhausted, so I didn't want to do anything. And then it was from Doha to Kathmandu, Nepal, which is the capital city of Nepal. I think it was about 5.5 hours to do that. And then from Kathmandu to Lukla, it's about a 45-minute helicopter flight.
Okay. Man, what a trek. And that's just to get to...
That's just to get there, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man. One thing that a previous guest has said is that because of the mountains, the weather is really unpredictable there. And there's moments and even probably trekkers that go there and they don't see the top of Mount Everest. Yeah. Did you get a chance to see the top of the peaks, including Mount Everest, while you were there?
Yeah. So I think, again, it was a magical experience, and I felt like it was exactly where I was supposed to be at that moment in time, because we got so lucky with the weather. Every day was perfect. So every day, wake up and, it was cold. I'd say below the tree line, we were probably in the 40s. And then above the tree line, it was probably in the 20s most of the time. And then it'd get down to 0 at night. Okay. But every day we would hike early in the morning. So we would be out of the tea house by 8 a.m. at the latest usually. and hike in the early morning sun, and the sun was up every single day. Didn't
man.
have one day where the sun didn't come up that we couldn't see the
Really?
sun. So it was just perfect weather. Wasn't too much wind either, which was really nice.
Mhm.
And we'd hike, the 3 to 8 miles a day that we were doing. And right around 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, those clouds would start rolling up the valley. And you could see it coming.
Oh, no
You
kidding.
could see it coming, and you're like, okay, it's going to get to us in an hour.
Yeah.
So do whatever hiking we're going to do and be done.
Mhm.
And then those clouds would roll in, and it'd be cloudy the rest of the day. But you would be inside at that point, and it was just, it was perfect weather. And it actually, so we got to Everest Base Camp at like 10:30 in the morning,
Mhm.
sunny, perfect, clear. We could see all the way down the valley, which was amazing, and had a perfect view of Everest right there.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it was just so magical. There was only like 2 other people up there, so we basically had the place to ourselves. Saw an avalanche there,
Oh,
which
no
was really
kidding.
wild. That was the first time I've ever experienced an avalanche.
Yeah.
It was far off, kind of on. So Everest Base Camp is at the end of the valley,
Mhm.
at the upper end, and then there's Everest and a bunch of mountains that kind of curve around it,
Yeah.
and then the valley goes down the other side. And so basically across from base camp on the other side of Everest, that's where the avalanche was, and it was just like boom, and we're looking like, oh my gosh, we're gonna like, what's happening?
Yeah.
And then you see this just massive amount of snow and ice just come crashing down.
Oh, man.
Luckily, it was far enough away; it wasn't an issue at
Yeah.
all. But that was pretty wild to see. And then probably the highlight of the trip, I mean, getting to base camp, 100% a highlight. But later that day, so we hiked back down to Gorik Shep, which is the last village,
Mhm.
which there's like 5 tea houses there. It's not really a village, but we got back to there, had lunch and everything. And then it was optional, but you could hike up this mountain called Kalapatar and get to the summit of that, and you have a really good view of Everest that's not blocked by the mountains in front of Everest.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to do that, and it would be amazing because the summit there is over 18,000 feet. So that was going to be the highest point that I would get to on the trek. So Everest Base Camp's like 17,500. And so I really wanted to do that. And my guide, who was awesome, his name's Anil, definitely recommend him as a guide. Just a great person. But he said that he's been to base camp, I don't know how many times, a lot of times.
Yeah.
And he said he's never got to see it at sunset, see a sunset over Everest from Kalapatar.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be amazing. And so I was like, well, let's do sunset then. That sounds awesome. And this was the one day where we had like a little bit of weather.
Mm-hmm.
So the clouds rolled up a little bit earlier than 2-3 o'clock. It rolled in earlier, and we're like, oh man, I don't know if we're going to get to see the sunset. Sunset was at like 4:30.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know if we're going to see this, but it started snowing.
Oh man.
And then we're like, well, let's just hike, at least I can say that I made it up there. I've already seen Everest from base camp. If we get lucky, we get lucky. And so we hike up Kalapatar, which is basically Gorik Shep's at like 16.2 maybe. And then, like I said, Kalapatar, the summit's 18.2. So you're going like 2,000 feet, and it's basically straight up for about 2 miles. If you've ever done like 1,000 feet in 1 mile of elevation gain, it's brutal.
Yeah.
It hurts, especially at 16,000 feet.
Yeah.
I was breathing heavy. But we made the trek up there and got up there, couldn't see anything. Just snow, white out, couldn't see Everest at all, couldn't see any of the mountains around. And then we're like, well, let's just wait for a little bit. We still got half an hour till sunset. So we sat up there a little bit and froze. But then you could see like out to the west, the clouds started kind of dissipating a little bit. It started clearing up a little bit. Yeah. And so we're just like, let's give it a little bit more time. And it kept clearing up. And you could see it was clearing up that way towards Everest. And so all of a sudden we could see down below into the valley and see Gorik Shep. And then right before sunset, like maybe 10 minutes before sunset, it cleared up over Everest.
No way.
Perfect view of Everest. The sun starts setting. And so Everest and the other mountains around there just get bathed in this orange glow. And it's just like, wow, it was the most surreal experience that I've ever had.
Yeah.
It was like something that would bring you to tears. It was just so magical. That's one of those moments where you just can't believe where you are.
Yeah.
So I got to see this perfect sunset over Everest to end that part of the trek, and then hike down really fast in the dark and got warm. Every day was just insane. Every day just got better and better. You're like, I don't think anything could top this. And then something would top it the next day. Just an unreal experience.
Wow. Do you already have your next Nepal trip planned out?
No. I am, this is a longer conversation that we don't need to get into, but, my guide, Anil, he's the president of this organization called Friends of Himalayan Children. And I would love to promote them. They do a lot of good work for the kids of Nepal. It costs money to go to school in Nepal as a younger kid. And so most kids drop out by high school because the families can't afford it. It's like $500 US dollars a year.
Wow.
For a kid to go to high school. And so he's one of the kids who went through the program and has helped a lot of kids be able to go to school, provide lodging for kids so they don't have to hike 5 miles to get to and from school kind of thing every day. And so they do a lot of great work. And so I would love to go back and see the village where he's doing that, his home village, hike around there and hike to another part of Nepal. There's other 8,000 meter peaks there. There's also the Upper Mustang, which I hear is insane.
Okay.
I like the high, Tibetan plain kind of thing. So there's a lot to see and do, but hopefully I can get there, in the next couple of years. But there's so many places to see.
Yeah.
So
hearing about all your travel experiences, you have collected quite a bit of knowledge over the last couple of years and the experiences that you've been able to do and see, so much that in 2023 you became a published author.
Yes.
And you released your first book, Travel Tips, a 20-something's comprehensive guide for traveling in the modern world. I think for a lot of hikers and outdoor enthusiasts, writing and publishing a book about their experiences is up there for them. What advice would you give to aspiring authors that want to share their experiences in print?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I should say you should definitely do it. I think it's amazing to be able to share your stories. And I think it's really helpful to people to share your experiences in a place, especially with hiking. It's really good to know some things because, there is kind of a life and death aspect to some hikes potentially. But if you're looking to publish a book about hiking or travel experiences or any book, the key is to stay disciplined with your writing. What I did to write my book is I set the goal of every day I'm going to write 500 words.
Okay.
And so I was committed to that goal for 4 or 5 months. Every day I'd write anywhere from like 300 to 1,000 words a day. I just committed time to that. So it was usually, anywhere from half an hour to 2 hours, depending on if I got in the groove or not.
Yeah.
But by doing that, I was able to actually get the words on paper. Then it's easy to kind of go back and edit and make changes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the hardest part is getting that started and getting that momentum to get the words on the paper.
Okay.
So.
Solid advice. Outside of being a published author, you're also a fellow podcaster. You're the host of Our Travel Experiences, a podcast inspiring people to pursue their dreams one story at a time. How did that podcast kind of come about?
Yeah, again, another long story that might be too much, but I, in doing all these travels over the years, it can kind of disconnect you from like your friends and family and just like your home and things like that. I feel like my home is everywhere that I've been to. I feel like I've like left a piece of me and it shaped a different kind of me through all of those experiences. And so, I would come back from these travels and, if someone like if my family or friends hadn't been to that place, it's really hard to, relate to them, like what I saw and experienced. Cause a lot of it's very life-changing. And so I wanted to, for my own sanity, but also to help others, share their experiences. I wanted to start that podcast to just kind of build a community and build a place where people could share those experiences and try to kind of work through that in their own minds and just have someone that will listen to them about those experiences. Because I think my family personally got tired of like hearing about all my travels all the time, because that's all I ever talk about. Like, all right, we've seen enough pictures, like please stop. So it was a little bit selfish, but I was just like, you know what, this is a great way to make friends, to make a community and swap travel stories with people, and kind of help each other out, process through some of those experiences.
Right on. And, we've actually shared a few guests together.
Yeah.
And Tammy on the trail, shout out to Tammy on the trail.
Awesome.
She's awesome. She actually was able to come up and do the enchantments with me last year. And
that's a goal of mine. I need to do that.
The lottery is this month to submit. But I totally understand where you said it's about building community, because, well, I love Yakima and what it has to offer. Being able to connect on a hiking level with people from across the country not only helps me appreciate what we have here, but then motivates me to go out and explore more and meet these incredible individuals that have had some amazing experiences on their own. At the end of the podcast, we always like to ask our hikers and guests if they have a regular summit routine that they do when they either reach the summit of a mountain, or maybe even it's just the end of the trail. For some, it's their favorite snack. For others, it's a trail beer, summit beer. And then for others, it's just the meal afterwards. Is there a regular thing that you do when you reach your summit, or maybe when you make it back out?
Yeah, that's a great question. I know a few people who do the summit beers. But yeah, I don't really have anything like necessarily that special. Usually when I get to the summit is usually when I'll eat my lunch or whatever. But, usually if I'm hiking with anyone, or sometimes solo too, after the hike, I always like to find a good burger place.
Yeah.
I could tell you, and after Everest, after 2 weeks of basically starving and hiking a lot, I demolished a hamburger and fries and a Coke and all of that. So that was glorious. But yeah, I like to find a good burger place usually, to try different spots. It's fun if I can find like a hole in the wall burger place.
Yeah.
That's very local, like, family owned kind of thing. Yeah. That's always cool.
And being a well-rounded traveler, I'm interested if you carry a luxury item that kind of falls outside of your essentials in your travel bag.
Ooh, I feel like toilet paper is a luxury.
Yeah, for some, yeah.
That is the most valuable thing when you're hiking. But no, not usually. I'm very, very practical about what I carry. I don't like to carry any extra weight if I don't have to. Mm-hmm. Depends on I guess if I'm going for a day or a couple hours or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of something real special. I mean, sometimes I'll take my wireless mics so I can record my thoughts, or record an episode or something from the summit, but nothing too luxurious. I'm very, very practical.
Okay. How about for your carry-on?
For my carry-on?
Yeah.
Ooh, I mean, again, I'm very practical. I've spent a lot of time on planes. Mm-hmm. I've gotten very good of like, okay, this is how I'm going to pack it, what I'm going to pack. Yeah. I guess my laptop is a luxury item. Having access to the internet is always a luxury. But I always make sure I have snacks and headphones and things like that. I guess books would be the luxury item
for sure.
When I hiked to Everest, I carried a 1,000-page book on my back the whole time, which added a couple pounds, but thank God I did, because I read the entire thing. So.
Oh, okay. Definitely a luxury item, but well worth it. Now, the last question, Kyle, and you've kind of touched base on a few of them, but do you have any hiking goals for 2024, and then any travel goals for the rest of the year as well?
Yeah, way too many. If I could just hike every day, that would be amazing. But for hiking, I want to get to more national parks and hike in more national parks. I have a Utah trip planned with some friends. So we're going to go to Capitol Reef, Bryce, and Zion.
Okay.
And then I think I'm going to be able to swing Great Basin, which isn't too far from those, in Nevada. So that'll be some national parks, which is also a travel goal and a hiking goal. Hopefully we'll get to do like Angel's Landing. We'll see. But and then this isn't going to be 2024, but sometime in the next couple of years, I really, really, really want to do the entire Pacific Crest Trail. That is like a life bucket list goal. I've hiked pieces of it in different areas of the trail, over the years, but I would love to see if I can do the whole thing in one shot.
Yeah, man.
We'll see about the Continental Divide Trail and Appalachian Trail.
Oh, it'd be the Triple Crown. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw this. I think the woman with the record for fastest completion on PCT's fellow Yakima
Yeah,
native.
from here. Yeah, that was pretty wild. I think she did that while I was in Nepal.
Oh, okay.
Which was kind of cool to see. It was very inspiring.
Yeah.
She did it the opposite way that's of the normal. She went north to south, which is a lot harder to do.
Yeah.
You have a lot shorter window.
Well, that was it for the regular questions, Kyle. This last bit of the podcast is the this or that questions. I'm going to give you 2 hiking related topics, and you just choose which one you prefer out of the 2.
Okay.
So the first one is, do you prefer a steep incline or steep decline?
Oh, incline for sure. It sucks to do the incline, cardio wise, it's hard, but you can stop and take a break. Decline, you're just shredding your knees and your quads, it hurts. Now, when it comes to trail features, do you prefer waterfalls or summits? Ooh, that's a tough one. I'd say summits. I love that panoramic view. It's amazing when you can get to the top of a place and just look forever. So summits, yeah.
And then this is the trail system question, but do you prefer switchbacks or just going straight up?
Oh, another tough one. Depends on how steep the incline is. So switchbacks would be probably the preferred method. It's it's a lot kinder on the body and the cardiovascular system, but incline is a fun challenge, or going straight up is a fun challenge.
Now this one, I don't think I've ever seen a trail runner with these, but do you use trek poles or do you prefer being freehand?
No, I know trek poles are becoming more of a thing in trail running. I have never hiked with trekking poles. It feels awkward to me to have something like that in my hands. I like to be able to, if I do stumble on a rock when I'm hiking or running, to be able to put my hand out and stop myself easily. I also just like that it's pure, it's your whole body that you're working out. You don't have any assistance. So it's more of a challenge.
Okay. And then when it comes to your footwear, are you full-time trail runners or do you still wear hiking boots?
Depends. I love, since I've been wearing Hoka's the last 3 years or so, and the trail running shoes that they have are awesome for hiking. I actually hiked in Hoka's, actually the ones I have on right now, the entire time when I was hiking Everest. So if there's no snow, trail running shoes is perfect. I will wear hiking boots if I get into thick snow. Yeah.
And then are you rocking the Speed Goats or which ones?
Which one are these? I've had these for a while now. I ran the 100 miles in these too.
Oh man, they got some mileage.
They got some mileage on them, yeah. And they're still, honestly, the tread's still awesome. But I don't know which brand this is or which model this is. I'm gonna make it smell really bad in here. Challenger ATR 7.
Okay.
That's what I got.
Now this other one, it's another trail question. But do you prefer a loop trail or an out and back trail?
Ooh, I'd say loop trail. It's fun when you get to see something new all the time.
And then when it comes to bodies of water on the trail, when you have an opportunity, do you jump in or do you stay dry?
I'll stay dry, yeah. If I can avoid getting wet, I will. Especially, if you're hiking in colder weather, getting wet is potentially a real issue. So I like to stay dry.
And these is where it gets hard, Kyle. Sunset hikes or sunrise hikes?
Oh, depends on if a place is known for sunrises or sunsets. I like them both. Sunsets is probably what I would go with because you don't have to get up as early, and sunsets are just as beautiful as a sunrise, if not more so.
And then spring wildflowers or fall colors?
Oh, again, I think it depends on the place, but I love the wildflowers. I love seeing nature in full bloom. So I feel like there's life in the air.
And then the last one, when it comes to park systems outside of the national park, do you prefer national forests or state parks?
Ooh, I've probably hiked more in national parks, national forests. Yeah, I'd probably go national forest. I like the intense wilderness.
That was it for the this or that questions. If folks want to follow your travel adventures as well as listen to your podcast and some of the things that you have come up in 2024, where can they find you online?
Yeah, so I have an Instagram, Our Travel Experiences Podcast, and then I have a website, ourtravelexp.com. Feel free to just message me on Instagram and connect. I'd be happy to chat with anyone. My book is online as well. You can get it through a link on my website or Instagram. I have a link tree on my Instagram as well that takes you to everywhere. Or buy it at your local local bookstore. There's one in Inklings. I know that Inklings has it, and Encore Books here in Yakima. So
Right on. And we'll be sure to put all those links in the episode show notes so people can check them out. Kyle, it's been awesome to talk to you, and I'm looking forward to what 2024 has to offer for you. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really looking forward to doing some hikes with you once the weather warms up here a little bit.
Exactly. Thanks, Kyle.
Yeah, thank you.
And that brings us to the end of this episode alongside Kyle. We extend a heartfelt thanks to him for coming on the podcast. Make sure to stay connected and follow his upcoming adventures on Instagram at Our Travel Experiences Podcast. And don't forget to check out the episode show notes to learn more about his podcast and more. We have an incredible lineup of episodes planned throughout the winter months, and we can't wait to share them with you. New episodes will be dropping every Monday with occasional bonus episodes on Fridays. To ensure you never miss out on those thrilling tales, remember to hit that like and subscribe button. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to join our vibrant community on Instagram at Hikes and Mics. We'll be sharing episode visuals, my own personal hiking content, and so much more. Let's stay connected and continue to inspire each other on this remarkable journey. As we bid farewell, remember to tread those happy trails, embrace the great outdoors, and keep the spirit of adventure alive. Until next time, my fellow explorers, happy hiking. This episode's music was created by Ketsa. Follow him on Instagram at Ketsa Music. This episode is brought to you by Flip Socks. Whether you're on the trail, on the job, or in the yard, Flip Socks will keep Mother Nature out of your boots with their innovative nylon sleeve. You no longer need to worry about any annoying debris getting trapped in your boots during your hikes. Simply flip down the nylon sleeve over any boot to prevent Mother Nature from finding its way inside, keeping your feet comfortable all day long. To get your first pair, visit flipsockswithaz.com and enter promo code HikesMikes10 at checkout to receive 10% off your order. And for listeners who use the promo code at checkout, I'll be donating 100% of the Season 2 promo code proceeds to Big City Mountaineers, who provide transformative experiences through connections to nature that strengthen life skills and build community for youth and disinvested communities across the nation. So if you're tired of bits and pieces of the trail finding its way into your hiking boots, pick up a pair of Flip Socks today with the promo code HikesMikes10 to get 10% off. For website and promo code, see the episode description.